keep forgetting.
Got her set?
Yep.
Good morning, it's 9 a.m. I will call the February 2nd, 2016 Wright County Board meeting to order. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item of business would be the minutes of January 26, 2016.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes
I
unless
will
somebody
second
has
that.
them.
Motion by Commissioner Burrell, second by Commissioner Hewsome. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. The agenda for today. Any amendments, additions of any sort?
Not, I will make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Hewsome, second by Commissioner Delyden. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Consent agenda.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
Motion by Commissioner Burrell, second by Commissioner Delyden. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. 9:05, Virgil Hawkins. Good morning, Virgil.
Good morning, Chairman and Board of Commissioners. This morning there are three highway items for your consideration. The first one being to approve the annual resolution regarding spring load restrictions, and we have in your packets the updated map for 2016, which has some changes based on our overlay program last year. We upgraded 3 of the highways to 9-ton instead of 7-ton.
I'll make a motion to approve the annual resolution regarding spring load restrictions.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Delyden, second by Commissioner Burrell. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry. Roll call vote. Commissioner Hewsome?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimous. Actually, I neglected to sign this and set that up there for you. I'm sorry. Usually Bob has an item, and I kind of got thrown off by no item for the auditor treasurer's office. There you go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Virgil, back to you.
Okay, thank you.
That resolution carried unanimous.
Okay, thank you. The second item is to approve a Highway 25 Corridor Coalition Joint Powers Agreement, and just for some background, this is a group that's been meeting for, I want to say, a year and a half or two now, and it's really for Trunk Highway 25 regional and advocacy group to, help MnDOT make good decisions about what's going on along the corridor, similar to our Highway 55 coalition and I-94 coalition that we're involved with. And this would mean a financial impact of $8,000 to $10,000 a year for our contribution to the coalition, but the agreement is attached for your consideration.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Potter?
I have attended these Highway 25 Coalition meetings since the beginning, and what it is that in Sherburne County they have a 1,300-acre multimodal type project that's on the table, and this potential impact to the residents of Wright County are in need of this. Another river crossing is going to be required, and we've all talked about this, how it should be, common sense things should happen, but unfortunately in the MnDOT world, you have to form coalitions to get the attention, to get the things moving forward. I think this is going to have a major impact on the citizens of all of Wright County, not just Monticello, if nothing happens. They're looking at various crossing locations right now, and then they'll be in with MnDOT when it gets closer to the time to decide it. I mean, they have a couple favored ones, but you'd need to talk to Administrator O'Neill to find out where they're at, because I didn't attend the TAC meetings that they had up there. But this is similar to everything else we got, and I And I wholeheartedly support and agree with what their mission is. And from what we've talked about last Friday, is this will be for the budget for 2017. This won't have a budget impact for 2016, so it'll be on for discussion for funding of it for next year. So there will be no financial impact this year.
Mike, would this be like rerouting 25 then, and then 25 would be something else, or would it be a separate project on its own?
Commissioner Burrell, this will be a separate bridge crossing from 25. More than likely to the west of Highway 25.
Oh, really?
Closer to the nuclear plant, from what I'm understanding, out that direction, because that will line up with where this multimodal piece will be, and then what, County Road 14 or whatever in Sherburne County, it'll line up with that.
I thought it would make more sense to have it to the east, though.
The one to the east is more of a local traffic bridge, and that's going to be a little more problematic because Sherburne County doesn't support that. But that's not going to be for this project. That would be more for local traffic. Again, that one does have merit too, but you just have to have both sides of the river agree on that. But this one here, if that 1,300-acre multimodal project goes forward, without this crossing, Highway 25 will be unbearable for anybody in Monticello or the rest of Wright County that wants to use that to get up north. It's kind of a challenge now, as Commissioner Swatsky knows. It's going to be even more of a challenge if nothing happens.
Well, I don't think it's just Commissioner Swatsky. Anybody that drives up there, I mean, I know it myself, and I don't go up there that often, but see it all the time.
So Mike, is this bridge then, basically the one that MnDOT had talked about 10, 15 years ago and kind of put on the plan?
That is correct.
It's not in addition to that one, or it is that one? Because that one was going to be west of town, and then it would almost seem like if there was two, they'd literally be within a few miles of each other, but this is that one.
This is that one that
Okay.
they explored before, but for whatever reason got put on the shelf, but this is going to trigger it moving forward again.
Well, I'm not sure. That's the one that was talked about 15 years ago or so that was decided to be closer to Clearwater, and that would be a high-speed connection between 94 and 10. So this one would be in addition to or
so
in
it's
place of
addition
that
to.
one. It's all kind of up in the air right now, depending on the development.
Kind of seems to me if you had one, you wouldn't necessarily need
Right.
the other. I mean, because they'd only be within, if this is west of Monticello, then they'd only be within a few miles of each other.
And I think that's why it's important to be part of this group. As this development occurs, it could help MnDOT make a decision where to put the bridge.
Yeah,
So-
Mr. Chair, I was part of those talks in the 90s when they were talking about those, and they had at least a half a dozen different scenarios for river crossings from County Road 19 in Otsego all the way to Clearwater. I mean, there was a lot of different combinations that could go here, go there.
And they did have one near the nuclear plant where this
Right, there was
could-
one there at the time, I recall that conversation.
Mr. Chair? Mr. Delyden, how much is Sherburne County contributing to this?
Equal amount to what, there's a funding formula set up by the group, and the two counties would pay generally equal amounts.
Basically, it looks like we would pay 1/4 of the budget, and Sherburne would pay 1/4 of the budget, and cities and townships would share the other half.
Correct.
As I understand it.
That is correct.
The one question I have is, it doesn't indicate necessarily what the budget would be. Now I'm trying to figure out here, these voting members, is that well spelled out, or I'm trying to,
Item 9.
item 9. Yeah, each member shall have a vote. I recognize that, a quorum, who's a member? Where does it indicate who the members are?
See, what we were all,
Sure, sure.
in the beginning, it looks like it'll be Sherburne County having more votes than Wright County, because it'll be Sherburne, Big Lake, and Big Lake Township, where in Wright County it'll be just Monticello and Wright County. According to the very first page of the joint powers agreement.
So those people are the members then? I mean, that doesn't, so you're saying what that very first paragraph is, City of Monticello, City of Big Lake, okay, these are individual, okay, these parties agree to our individualized members, okay.
So it makes a difference what we think. Sherburne County will have the more votes.
Yeah, I see what you're saying there, they'd have 3 votes to 2 then, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, number 4 indicates each member shall appoint annually a representative. So I think each person or each agency, number 7, would appoint somebody to be their member representative at the coalition meetings.
Wouldn't it make sense to just give Wright County 2 votes, and then it would be even that way, or, I don't know, you don't see any conflict on this anyway, really, probably, but.
No, I think this will be a group that is going to advocate together on what's best for the region.
Sherburne will be paying a little bit more because the other 50% would get split between the three.
Correct, yeah.
So they'd each be paying 16.66% each, so Sherburne would be paying more than we would, because we'd have Monticello paying 16.66 and City of Big Lake paying 16.66 and City, Big Lake Township paying 16.66.
Well, they're paying for that extra vote anyway.
Yeah, so they're paying more for it then, I guess.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Potter?
Also keep in mind that the project that got this jump started and going is in Sherburne County. It is in their best interest to have cooperation in a regional crossing there, which has been talked about for a while. And it's also to the benefit of Wright County, so it's better that we work together to try to come up with a solution for this versus nothing. And granted, in a perfect world, they should just grant it, but we unfortunately have to have coalitions to get this done. And one other item that the preliminary discussions that we had was looking at like a $17,000 annual budget. That was the number thrown out there, so that's kind of the basis number, because it wasn't going to be some $55,000, $60,000, wasn't going to be like that. It was just going to do your basic preliminary things to get MnDOT District 3 and MnDOT going on, putting this project on the map.
Mr. Chair, I concur with Commissioner Potter. That was exactly my thoughts, that to work together and enter into this agreement gives both of us, both Wright County and Sherburne County, the advantage of going forward with this project.
But then when it comes for a project where we want to have a crossing east of 25, we won't get any support from them. So,
We don't know that.
well, it sounds that way.
In response to that, Commissioner Burrell, the crossing east of 25 that they're talking about, Sherburne County's commissioner was considering that they're going to be taking out $200,000+ houses to accommodate this, and that's where their concern was, in Sleepy Hollow, where the subdivision's called over there. And that was their concern, how do you do this, and how do we work that in without having to acquire all these properties?
And that
Where
is
was
a
the
concern.
planning? Where was the planning 20 years ago?
There wasn't.
Well, Pat, I think you're closer involved with this. I think
Well, Mike has actually been more at the meetings. I know some of the preliminary ones I wasn't actually aware of, and I think Mike, with his contacts in transportation, was aware of them, and he was at some of those, so he's more familiar with it than I am. I know a few years ago there were some meetings that I had attended, and then I think on the Sherburne County side, they kind of quit coming and that sort of thing for a while, and they didn't happen for a while.
But would this take, at the current time, would people go there to cross? Probably not, because they're going across and going east,
Depends where they're going on the other side. Depends where their ultimate
coming from.
destination is.
Yeah.
Well, where they're coming from or where they're going to, but.
Well, yeah, if they were crossing to go.
For those that are going up north, if it's to the west, along south, that's not no problem at all.
That would probably be better, because it'd be less,
But if you're going to Big Lake,
be no stoplights.
anybody that's going to Big Lake ain't gonna drive all the way past Monticello, go
Right.
across, and then turn around, make a U-turn and come back to Monticello, so.
Right.
It depends where you're going. And I don't know where all those cars that are crossing that bridge are going. I do know that a number of years ago, they actually went and pulled over like every 10th car and asked them where they were going and surveyed them. And based on that survey, they utilized that to decide where the crossing should be, that sort of thing. And they came up, west of Monticello, and I'm not sure if east of Monticello was even on the radar.
It
then, if
was,
there are others.
yeah, all the way from Elk River to St. Cloud was looked at back, 15, almost 20 years ago, and they had a whole matrix of different.
But it would sure be better for Wright
options.
County to have one between Monticello and to the east,
Well, not necessarily.
no?
I
mean, there's 2 of them down by Elk River right now. There's the 101, and then there's a back road in too.
Parish Avenue.
Yeah, Parish. It definitely needs something with more of a high-speed thoroughfare through. That's
But I
what's
mean, we
really
have a
needed.
lot of the businesses now out on the east side of Monticello, and if you could cross out there, 25 is just bottlenecked a lot of times
Right, but
during the day.
but if you moved it and you had a straight through out to 10, which is kind of what I'm gathering this to be.
So
that-
25 then would go straight west of Monticello then, and then the old 25 going through Monticello, then that would relieve a lot of the
Yeah.
traffic, I would think.
So that would make more sense.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Potter, who do you see as being our spokesman? One of the commissioners or an engineer?
We'd probably be having the engineering input on this, just because to go through the MnDOT process, they're a little bit more learned on how that works than how to weave that through that process to get it noticed and funded.
But I'd like to say it'd be a team effort, and I know in the past, we've had success when an elected official is the voting member and takes the lead, like in I-94 and 55 coalition, but the engineer would also be at the meetings to lend technical support.
Well, I'm just kind of curious on how this is going to get set up and who would be the voting member. If it would be a,
We would decide that later.
When is the anticipated first meeting expected?
But we talked about this, each agency would approve this now, and then, once all the agencies approve the agreement, one original would be sent around for signature, and I think it was talked about in June, a first initial meeting to decide
Okay, so we
what the
got some
needs are
time.
for next year.
has Sherburne approved this yet?
They are going to be bringing it to their board shortly. City of Monticello's approved it, and the other agencies are going to be approving it.
I make a
Big Lake
motion to
Township.
table this until,
Big Lake approved it.
I'll make a motion to table this until Sherburne County approves it, and we would I just have some concerns, so I'd want to table
A
this
motion to
until.
table, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second, okay, second, motions to table are non-debatable, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign? Aye. Motion carries 4-1. Then I do have a question for Mike, do you know, I mean, I know that Commissioner Peterson was skeptical of some components of this, is he going to be supporting this, or how does that work?
I don't know
Not
which
sure.
way the wind blows. He doesn't show up to these meetings. He's still worried about the crossing on the east part of 25 by the wastewater plant. Although his constituents in Big Lake and Big Lake Township and even Becker have told him, we want this. So he's got his marching orders from the people there that this is what we want, and they're going to.
And Mike, just so you know, I'm not against this at all. I just think if Mark wants a little more time to look at it,
Well, yeah, my understanding is as soon as this has been acted on by the Sherburne County Board, it immediately comes back to
it
the
would come
board.
back to us then.
So Lee, keep an eye out for that, or Mike tell Lee, and as soon as
Because
it's back, it comes
they
back.
might bring something up that we're not seeing on the radar either, too.
I would have to believe that they've run theirs past the legal department like we have, just to make sure that it's pretty standard, like every other one we've done.
Yeah, but, sometimes we enter into agreement and partnerships, and it doesn't end up being as good of a partnership as it should be, so I'll just wait.
Okay, so I hear no discussion against it here, it just sounds like a matter of hearing, and I'm kind of interested, and maybe Sherburne will tweak it or something too, because I know there has been some reluctance by at least the Board of the Commissioner represents that area to be supportive in some ways or another, and like I said, I think that was in part what happened a few years ago when that group kind of stopped meeting for a couple of years or more.
And Mr. Chair, one other item, if any entity tweaks it, it goes back to all the members for revote.
Yeah, understood. Okay, let's see, in Virgil, number 5-year highway construction plan meeting.
Yeah, the third item, at our last Transportation Committee of the Whole, we talked about setting a 5-year meeting to get public input and explain the needs and funding of our next 5-year plan, and there's some suggested dates there that I think we can eliminate Monday, February 22nd, and Thursday, February 25th. There were some conflicts there, so the suggested dates would be Tuesday, February 23rd, or Monday, February 29th, or Wednesday, February 24th. We've had these in the afternoon in the past at 1:30.
1:30?
23rd works for me.
We're already here.
Mr.
It
Chair?
would be like a 1 o'clock
Virgil?
meeting,
1:30.
1:30,
It
so.
would be.
It would be
okay.
here.
So it wouldn't be after our board meeting on the 23rd?
I-
10:30 on it.
Chris, we'll go out and have lunch first
could
and
be.
then come back.
I'll make a motion to approve Tuesday the February 23rd for setting a 5-year highway construction plan meeting.
At 1 o'clock?
At 1:30.
1:30?
Is there a second to that motion?
Well, could we call 1 o'clock? Or you don't want it?
What, this
Is there a
gives you a
second to the
little bit
motion?
longer time for
Okay,
lunch.
more lunch, okay.
I'll second it. Okay, motion by Line, second by Potter. Just a little input, I think, relative to the township folks, the daytime is less ideal because they have regular jobs, and city, the staff, it works better for them because they're at work, and if you're an elected council person or something, it doesn't work so well at that time, but so I mean, there's kind of a give and take there, and I guess anybody can send us a letter, but,
Right, once we have the date set, we'll be sending notices out to all the cities and township asking for input. They can give written input ahead of the meeting and then attend the meeting.
sometimes I think we've done these later in the afternoon.
And we can, it's up to
You know,
the board.
Kind of like, maybe like a 3:30 or something, just to allow for if they're still working, and then if they're getting off, they only have to get off early. But again, I think as long as, if we don't do it that way, somebody might criticize us, I'm not sure, maybe not.
Well, if we get response back, nothing says we can't change the time later on.
We've got-
We've got time to do that.
And this is going to be
Then you might change it unless somebody.
now this here is going to be a meeting prior to going out on a series, or a tour, then I'm assuming.
Correct, yeah, and I'd prefer we set the date and the time here, and then we'll get notices out to township cities and newspapers, so if we want to have it later in the afternoon, we can certainly do that.
And this is maybe fine, but I guess I'd let everybody know in the notice that the board intends to take a tour, so that way if a
Yeah.
township or something sends us a note saying we're concerned about this, that we'll get out there and look at that on the tour.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so 1:30 PM on the 23rd is what you came up with, Mark? Okay. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Virgil. Okay, here. Items for consideration, Budget Committee of the Whole. Commissioner Burrell, please.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we met on January 26th. There was Commissioner Swatsky, Burrell, Delyden, Houston, Potter, Auditor Hevola, and Lee Kelly were there. Others present, Rick Petrick from the State Office of the Auditor, and Julie Mader, also from the State Auditor staff. And basically, it was just kind of a preliminary kind of questionnaire. It's been a while since the state has done an audit, so they wanted to come out and kind of familiarize themselves a little bit, and kind of went through different questions as far as things that they were going to be looking at, and making sure that we didn't have any conflicts and things like that. So it was just kind of a little introductory visit, and they're off to their work after this, I believe, so. And with that, I guess I'll move the adoption of the minutes. There's no recommendation, so.
I'll second it.
Motion by Commissioner Burrell, second by Commissioner Delyden. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Personnel Committee, Commissioner Houston, please.
All right. Personnel Committee met on January 27th, 2016. Members present, Hewson, Sawatsky, Kelly. Others present, Hess, Haggerty, Anselman, Miller, and Hoffman from the Sheriff's Department. And what came before us was the Sheriff's Department reorganization plan. Sheriff Hagerty proposed a revised organizational structure for administrative, patrol, and criminal divisions of the Sheriff's Department, and this request includes adding one captain without increasing the overall staff because they'd be eliminating one sergeant position. And the additional captain would provide the ability to divide the patrol and the criminal divisions, which is necessary because of the growth in the department. And the elimination of the sergeant position will occur due to attrition when one of the longtime sergeants retires. So overall staffing will not change. The impact to the budget is estimated to be at approximately $5,000 to $8,000 per year, depending on the current level of whoever they choose for this position. So you have the current organizational chart and the revised organizational chart, and then also a revised, just the patrol division. So you've got those documents. And after some discussion and looking at how this did make good sense to us, we recommend proposed Sheriff's Department reorganization plan as proposed to the County Board for approval. And Mr. Chair, with that, I will move the minutes and the recommendation.
I'll second it.
Motion by Commissioner Houston, second by Commissioner Delight. Any further discussion?
Commissioner Burrow, is the very first page, is that the proposed?
Oh, current.
That's the current.
And
Okay.
the next three kind of show a breakdown from the captain on down.
Okay.
The next three don't show like the chief deputy on top, they just show the captain on down.
Okay.
You kind of, you know what I mean, it just doesn't show the chief deputy and sheriff on top of it.
So you'll see then the division.
The changes over here, Charlie, on this side, where right now the patrol division captain has patrol division, and criminal. The two patrol divisions go off under one captain, and then the criminals goes under a captain.
Okay.
It's kind of how it does there.
And then for a larger view of individually the divisions, you can look at the patrol division, the administrative division, and the criminal division on separate sheets.
And as far as I think it was the warrants and the bailiff, is that what it was? They were going to go together instead of having separate sergeants?
Civil warrants and transports.
Yeah. Civil warrants and transports had separate sergeants before, now they're going to go under one sergeant.
And Mr. Chair, it's my understanding that this will take effect in May 2nd, following the retirement at the end of the month of April.
Todd? Morning.
Morning, Chair, Commissioners. That is correct. We're hoping for the actual position to be filled May 2nd, but we're expecting, or we're hoping to working with personnel and doing the application and hiring process before that time, because there will probably be backfills going up the line. If it's a lieutenant that's promoted to captain, then we'll have to do the application process for that lieutenant position. So we'd like to have everything in effect by that May 2nd position, or by that time.
We don't have to worry about grieving of salaries or nothing like that?
I won't get into that. I'm sure that's been
I know the
already
last time we had some
discussed.
promotions, we had to monkey around with that for months and spend thousands of dollars with arbitrators until we won, but hopefully that doesn't happen.
I'm sure that if that issue comes up, you'll be more than happy to address that at that time.
Well,
Pretty much guarantee it.
I think I'll ask Sheriff Hagerty about that. I'll give him a call and ask him about that, because if that's the case, I may want to reconsider my position.
I believe the captain's salary has already been set, so I don't
Okay.
think there's probably an issue. That was discussed at.
Well, you remember our last go-around. Like I said, the county board won on that, but only after having to waste a bunch of dollars on it, but,
That's government.
you know, well, it shouldn't be government, Todd, it shouldn't be government, but.
I agree.
But you're right, I shouldn't be playing that on you, I should be asking, somebody else about that, but, okay. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign, motion carries unanimous. Mr. Delight, Technology Committee.
Technology Committee met on January 27th. Members present were Burrell, Delyden, Job, Hila, Tagaro, and Kelly. Others present were Nelson, Jankala, Hoffman, Parlo, Strobel, Virgin. Seems like we're missing somebody too. We had a couple of different things.
Job was there too. Oh, you have him up on top, yeah. Okay. That's it.
We had a couple of things to talk about. Board video streaming update. We're still testing YouTube. There was one incident. We've had some people calling in complaining about live stream, and then they've had good luck with YouTube. But YouTube dropped out this last time. Just some tweaking with some of our existing equipment. We're thinking of upgrading the VCR. That's a 78 version up into an 85 version. We're going to upgrade a few years there, so we'll have to see what happens. Next thing, line records on-base conversion. Line records conversion on-base has been a great success. The project was done in 2 phases, and it's moving from the old document imaging system of Oracle, and Oracle is actually more expensive than our on-base conversion, so it's going to be better for all things considered, because now we're going to be on just one software for everything. On-base has currently been used out at the Human Services Building for a number of years. And the on-base upgrade, we're going to be upgrading to version 15 as part of Health and Human Services remote EDMS project. It will require a little bit of downtime, and they're going to have some, they'll be working with all the different departments that'll have an effect on to make sure that doesn't happen too much. Next thing was the potential fiber expansion to Historical Society. There's a project initiation example that was included with your packet. This is one of the things that they're utilizing in the IT department to figure out whether something is worth having, or at what point it should be done and what the costs are. And there's a little grid system that shows where it's situated. The fiber extension to Historical Society cost estimate is approximately $15,000. That is not quite correct. They did not have all the numbers when they were doing this. The $15,000 is just to run the fiber ring only. And I've got some current pricing. So the $15,000 is about is to run the fiber ring. The switches and all the other things, the labor for the Historical Society and other buildings is around $30,000. For the closet and all that sort of stuff at the highway or at the Historical Society. It ends up being a total of around $46,000 to put in fiber at the Historical Society.
So you haven't decided yet if it's worth that? Is that what I'm understanding here?
Yeah.
To provide an estimate?
Yeah.
So that there's no decision on moving forward or not with that at this point?
You're getting ahead of me.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Who's doing these minutes, me or you?
I just didn't understand the recommendation. If
Well,
it's,
that's because I'm still on the front page.
okay. Well, you're right, I went to the back. My apologies, go ahead.
No, actually, and that was one of these things on what this project she is designed to do. It's to help us figure out where we should spend our money, where we get our best bang for our buck. With it costing, with the current pricing updated at $46,000, at this time, I don't think it's a benefit to the county to put the network expansion out to there because of the large costs. And this is just an estimate, and it could still be higher than this. One of the suggestions we do have is that when they run the fiber ring over to the highway building, is that they at least run the conduit underground and get it over to the historical building so that sometime in the future,
We don't have to go digging again.
yeah, we can get that and then run it in. But for $45,000 or $46,000, the benefit to the county isn't real great. At this point, I think our money is better spent. And it's not just the money part of it, but it's the time with IT, that right now there are a lot of other higher priorities that need to get focused on. So I don't believe that this is a good use of both time, talent, and money.
My question, and I'm probably tending to agree with you, what can we do if we had that in that we can't do now up there at the Historical Society?
The advantage of this is it's faster for them. They would be able to dump data down from our existing minutes and stuff to send out to the Historical Society. But a simple fix to that is just to do a digital download, provide them with a simple hard drive or a flash drive or something to that effect instead of sending paper over there. I just don't see it being a huge benefit to the county at this point. But I'm going to refer to an expert. Olga? So I don't know, Adam, Olga, do you have anything more to add to that?
Good morning, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. Regarding the Historical Society, we don't really have a good, solid idea of what advantages we're going to take. Well, you know, what kind of advantages we'll get from expanding that fiber out there. We don't have a project in place or any set in stone goals that we're trying to reach, other than we know there's a relationship between us and the Historical Society, and in the future, if once we get a records manager hired, if we decide that the Historical Society is a place that our documents can go, there could be a benefit there. So at this point, we don't really have a goal that we're trying to meet with that. And if we do expand our infrastructure out there, we would want it to meet our standards for our network. And that's why the cost is in here, because that would become another piece in our fiber ring that could go down. And we also have some other concerns about having access to the building 24/7 in case we need to troubleshoot and maintain that equipment.
Because it's part of the ring, so it's a link.
And that's what I was going to ask, because we talked about doing this both ways. One is to have the Historical Society in the loop, you know, so the data could go either way. And then the disadvantage of that is if something happened there, it could shut down the loop. Or we talked about sending a spur just out. But my question is, Adam, talking about that, if we run this conduit, would it be able to go out and back if we did decide to make it in the loop?
Yes, the original plan was just to have a single conduit anyway.
Okay.
And if we do put it on the ring, both of our fiber lines would run through that same conduit. So for that short run there's a possibility that if that got cut, we would lose it completely out there. That's not going through a lot of major thoroughfares or anything like that, so the risk is fairly low, plus it's a really short distance. If we did run fiber in the ring, if we ran the fiber so that it could accommodate the ring, we could still light it up as if it was a spur, so it's just, instead of the traffic flowing both ways for redundancy, we could still do it one way. It's still going to cost about $30,000 was what our estimate is for that. It'd be a little less of a problem if we had.
And then we also had some discussion where the equipment would be located in the Historical Society. We might want it in a different
Correct.
Position, a different place in the building than
Well,
they currently have.
They had some concerns about where their equipment is, and they don't want us to have accessibility to it.
Right. We would probably have to scope out an area where we could set up our network equipment separately from where theirs currently is placed, because when we did our on-site visit, we had to go up some stairs and through some back areas that they weren't really comfortable with us having access into without them being around. And so for us, if this is a key, piece of our network that could affect a 24/7 operation like the sheriff's office, we would need to have access in there 24/7. So part of this would be scoping out an area where we could potentially put a secured rack separately that is in a different area from their upstairs portion. And included in this, we're throwing some possibilities in the numbers for having to run the wiring and do it kind of that way. So We also, another question that we had is if they're using our connection for internet and their hours are outside of our range, are we still responsible for supporting their internet connection for their customers? There's a lot of questions in here that we don't have an answer to, but.
Oh, go ahead, Mark. I was saying by putting the conduit out there, though, we've kind of, that will leave a lot of options open.
And like I said, with the amount of money and the amount of time that IT has to expend on it, there are bigger nuts we need to crack at this point, and this is just, to me, a low priority. I don't see a major benefit to the county.
And I don't have an official quote for getting that conduit run in advance, but if it ends up that we're going to be paving over this area and we can get that conduit in first, so that in the future, if we decide to move this route, that might be a way to go.
Then you just stop the conduit basically at the end of the pavement, probably?
Mm-hmm. Or else we could run it from almost their building entry point to our new highway building's entry point, if I'm remembering the map right, and just kind of leave it empty. And we could even install a pole line in there for the future.
I wouldn't build it any further than you had to, because you may be building something that never gets used, but.
That's true.
Okay, Mark, you want to continue on there?
Wireless upgrade status. So back to the recommendation for fiber expansion. Again, our recommendation was not to proceed with it because it's just not a good fit for the county at this time.
And I appreciate the extra info, because when I go out there then at their meetings, I can better explain to them, why we're not doing it at this time.
Wireless upgrade status. The wireless upgrade project has been slightly delayed. Hopefully it'll be going on in the second week of February is the target date. Government Center building is going to be the starting point, and then it's going to be evaluated at that point. Whether or not to take everything down and replace all at once, or just perform an incremental upgrade. Communication is taking place with the Department of Technology Coordinator and specifics of the cutover. Nelson stated the current equipment is extremely old, outside of support, and our connectivity does not meet current security standards. And then we also discussed the option allowing public to connect to the county wireless network. Adam stated there was a number of options that are currently being researched. So first thing is to bring it up to required standards, improve our security, implement some modern equipment, and second phase is to evaluate overall coverage throughout work areas. And then actually a third one is to see if we can figure out an easy way for the public to utilize it without causing a security issue to the county itself.
Right, and it would not just be wide open to the public, because you don't want a bunch of downloading being done. So, but it would be something, maybe what we talked about was coming up to the receptionist and getting the code for that day or whatever, just get something like that, so that we kind of have a little bit of control over it yet, so.
Can I add something to that?
No. Yes.
All right, thank you.
No. You're confused.
So with the wireless, one of the options, the system that we're putting in place, what we're looking at are options to throttle the bandwidth. So when it comes to public access to it, we're still exploring what would be the best method. We can keep them segregated and secured away from the internal county network, which is very important. But then, how do we make this accessible and not be a hassle for people also at the same time is what we're looking at. So we do have some methods of keeping the amount of data that they're using in corralled a little bit. So that's kind of another thing we're looking at with that expansion. And then once we have this current upgrade in place, which we're going with all Cisco equipment, industry standard stuff, then we want to have an evaluation done of our current coverage. Because with these new access points, some of them have stronger radios, the coverage might be a little bit different. Then the next phase would be to consider a bigger expansion and an upgrade after that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And then emailing, archiving, retention update. Last year, we committed to discussing setting up a retention of 5 years on email. A number of issues with current county email archive systems has been discovered while trying to implement this retention schedule. Nelson stated they are working with the vendor on the challenges. Meanwhile, county email data is growing, and there was a strong necessity to archive email and manage its size. There's a possibility that we will need to look into upgrading our current email archive system in order to solve current issues. This upgrade has not been planned for or just discussed in the past. And the email has, the issue we're having is that the archiving has been since email was first implemented in the county back in 2000, 88, 98. Whenever that vice president invented, when Gore invented the web, that's how long it's been, right? So again, it's information only. It's something we need to address, and they're trying to figure out how to do it.
You don't believe everything Hillary says too, do you?
Yeah. She won Iowa.
By 2 votes.
2 votes.
Yeah, she didn't win it as much as she expected to, that's for sure. Okay, on the real important things now. Nintex workflow and forms. This was added on the 27th. We've been working, trying to come up with a form that can be utilized off of our website that we can put personal data on it and meet all the HIPAA requirements and every other requirements for personal data protection. Nintex, they've been experimenting with it on some trials within the county. It hasn't, you know what, I'm going to let Adam take care of this one, or Olga, because they're the ones that have been dealing with it on a very regular basis, and they've had some great success stories and some real major benefits to this product.
Like Commissioner Dahlhausen said, we've been experimenting with Nintex, which is a bolt-on plug-in for SharePoint, and SharePoint being one of our major platforms internally in the county for sharing and collaboration. What this product allows us to do is it allows departments to do their own workflows, basically transferring documents back and forth. It's very simple, it's drag and drop, and there's a lot of processes that we'd like to replace with this. Other counties are using this with success, and through looking at the trial, we were able to have some successes there. A side effect of this is that it also has a secure form solution that we're going to take advantage of. Additionally, we are poised to save some dollars as far as licensing for SharePoint for this. Some of our departments are looking at projects, for instance, expense reimbursement forms. We have a set number of SharePoint licenses in place for end users, for them to be able to access these forms, for the rest of the county to be able to access these forms that some of these departments want to implement. We'd have to add licensing for them at an estimated cost of about $50,000. With Nintex forms, the departments can actually do this themselves, and we do not have to purchase that additional licensing. So we've been finding a lot of advantages to moving to this product and really increasing the use of our SharePoint system. And the reason I had brought it up to that technology committee, there was a 10% savings that we could capitalize on. We decided we want to go with this product anyway. And so the funding is in place through Technology CIP. And we would like to get this ordered up and installed and get our departments working in there.
And this is something, we've been working at trying to come up with a secured form for a long time. One of the hopes was that when we went with our new website, that they would have, they do have a form part of their website, but it's not secured. In order to move forward with be able to do more online for the customer, for the end users, for the residents of the county, we need to have something that is protected, and this solves that problem. And again, as Adam says, the SharePoint part of it alone is going to be well worth it, because it's going to solve a lot of issues and make things a lot easier to deal with.
We would have recommended this without the secure forms piece. It just so happened that it also met another need of ours.
So we're going to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. So it's a great benefit to the county. So the recommendations from the Technology Committee was to purchase a standard edition of the Forms product, workflow and Forms product with the annual software support. The cost was approximately $20,000 with a $4,800 annual software assurance. Again, this is coming out of the web site budget. We had some money put in there for continuing, so it has no effect on the county budget at all. It's money that's been set aside.
Is there a motion on the minutes and recommendations?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes and the recommendation.
And I'll second that, but I just want to clarify then on item 4, our recommendation then is to just get the pricing on the conduit at this time, right?
I can move forward with that if you'd like.
That would be our recommendation there? Okay, so.
And only to the point that it needs to go, in
It
other words,
needs
if
to
there's
go,
going
and
to be
you'll
a
come-
bituminous surface or something like that.
I think, I'm expecting him to come back to the board for,
But we wouldn't need to go all the way to the other building, because that could be dug up just as easy
Yep.
later, and why dig it up at all if you're never
Yeah.
going to use it?
And I'll consult with Virgil on exactly where those paved areas are going to be. as far
but I
as
would
figuring
suspect
out.
you'd come back to the board with that estimate even for the conduit to go out past the paving, I would think.
My guess is it's not that much, but
And
Yeah, I
make
can
sure
do that.
someone writes down where it is, too. Puts a post there, or does something.
We'll spray paint the grass just a little straight.
Yeah, I'll second
Those
it.
probably won't work because it's going to move, but obviously we need to have that well documented.
I'll second it.
Okay, we got a motion by Glide, second by Burrell. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Central Minnesota EMS Regional Advisory Board, Commissioner Hewson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I sit on the Central Minnesota EMS Board, and this is the advisory board that also meets 4 times a year.
Adam.
And we had 3 very highly qualified
That was
candidates
your only
that
copy.
expressed interest. 2 of them are currently serving as the representative and the alternate. And I spoke with the regional coordinator, Marion Larson. She said they're all, you can't miss with any of them. And also, I got the letters of interest, resumes from the 3 candidates. And the EMS community, I heard from them, and they are in strong support of the 2 that are currently serving, and that is Brian Nord, who's the representative, and he works for Buffalo Line Ambulance, and the alternate would be Steve Berg, of course, our Wright County Sheriff's Emergency Management Director. And with that, Mr. Chair, I would recommend supporting Brian Nord and Steve Berg.
Okay, so is that a motion?
I would make that motion. yes.
Motion by Commissioner Houston, second by Commissioner Delyden. Any further discussion? We didn't actually, or did we? We didn't actually kind of advertise this as open spots, did we? Did someone just kind of know that terms were coming up?
I believe the group had the discussion.
Okay.
We didn't post on the website, for example.
Right.
Okay, I just wouldn't want us posting if we already had incumbents that everybody was happy with, just because why kind of create an issue when there isn't one there? But
Exactly. And-
certainly anybody can tell us they have an interest at any time, and apparently that's what happened.
Correct, and
Okay.
Mr. Chair, that's very true. They're very happy with the incumbent,
Yeah.
so I would,
And we're happy with them because
We are.
they're, we're appointing them and they're representing the county and,
right.
okay. And so I guess we have a name, we have another name that we can kind of keep in our memory bank if, in the future, one of these folks decides to step down and we have an opening.
Correct. Yep.
Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Advisory committees and boards, Commissioner Hewson.
The Central Minnesota EMS region met last Friday, and we had our executive director from the EMS Regulatory Board came and spoke with us, and he has some real wonderful goals about being very transparent and figuring out ways to support the EMS and ambulance services around the state. Currently, we've been getting our grant monies from the seatbelt tickets, and now the state pretty much all over is 94% compliant with seatbelts. So they realize that that's probably something they're going to have to really take a serious look at, and perhaps they would be getting dollars from the legislature in another way. But that's still up in the air. So that was,
Texting and driving.
Yeah, I would think that would be probably
and
the next.
that's
The problem is
exactly.
you can't get enough money out of it.
Well,
hard to
one of
prove that
the
one.
distracted driving in general, so whether it's texting or whatever, if you're shaving,
Yeah.
if you're putting your makeup on, whatever you're doing, when you're talking on your phone, a lot of people are quite distracted when they're on their phone. You can see it when they're kind of, doing things they shouldn't be doing. And so there's some of those things that will be coming forward, we'll keep looking at. But, so we had a good meeting. It was, see if I have any other notes here. Tony Spector, the executive director, has quite a history. He served with the Minneapolis Police Department for 13 years, and he went to law school. He served at the Meeker County attorney for a couple of years, sort of an interim thing, and also continues to serve with Meeker County part-time as a police officer, so, or excuse me, a deputy. So anyway, he's quite a guy. They're looking at the proposed changes to the EMS recertification. 57% in our state have national certification, and the fire department's training can count for recertification. So they're sort of looking at whether we need a state standards or a national standards, and Minnesota is very high with their standards. Centricare has started a community paramedic program, so we'll kind of see where that's all going to be, where that's headed. And our regional coordinator, Marion Larson, has been working on doing training for the I want to say EpiPens, no, it's wrong. It's the opioid antidote, and generally it's it doesn't hurt anyone. So say they suspected that someone has overdosed on heroin or another